And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Colin Scott, who during his near-death experience encountered his deceased brother, and today we're going to learn about it. Colin, thank you so much for being on our show, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you very much for inviting me on your show.
All right, Colin, if you don't mind, let's just start on the day that your NDE happened and go from there.
The day started, I travelled to Melbourne in Victoria from Sydney, New South Wales on a motorcycle to play in an ice hockey tournament. And after the tournament, I stayed with my sister. And that morning, on the morning of the 10th of October, 84, I left my sister's place. And I was having a nice leisurely ride. I thought I'll take this ride nice and casual, have a nice ride home. And part of the way along, I got overtaken by a whole bunch of motorbikes. And I thought, oh, will I catch up with them and join in? And I thought, no, I'll just enjoy the ride. Luckily, on the next bend, I saw them all pulled over by the police, and it wasn't me. I wasn't part of it. And that was the last thing I remembered. And the next thing I recalled was there was nothing. I was in a place that was felt like it was space. It was like a vacuum. I couldn't see any sky. I couldn't see any ground below me, and there was no light, but it wasn't dark at the same time. It was just a void. And I felt like I was walking on air type thing. So I didn't know what was going on. So I'm looking around thinking, what's happening? And I saw a figure in the distance. And I thought, okay, I'll approach this figure and see if they can help me. And as I walked towards them, which I couldn't have done in the real world because at that point in time I was laid up in hospital. But I walked towards this figure, and as I got closer, I realized that the person was my brother, and my brother had died 8 years earlier. He'd been in a car he'd been asleep in a car that had a head-on collision when he was 21. So he'd passed 8 years earlier when I was 13. So I've seen Raymond, and I've gone, Ray, and I started, Ray, what are you doing here? And I'm yelling, I'm swearing, I'm saying, what the hell, what the F, why did you leave me? And I'm yelling and I kept yelling as loud as I could, because no matter how loud I yelled, there was no sound. But I could hear myself yelling in my head, but there was no sound coming from my lips whatsoever. Same as everything else. There was no sound in this vacuum type place. And I got closer, and I could never get to him. I could never reach him as such. And but I could see him side on, and he turned to look at me. He turned towards me, and I'm Raymond, and I'm screaming and carrying on. Why are you here? Why are we here? Where are we going? And this went on, and I just went, where can we go? Come on, I'm ready. And as I reached out to get him, and I couldn't, like I said, I could never reach him, he looked at me pretty much one last time and just shook his head, raised his hand a little, turned away, and disappeared. Virtually just went into the darkness or the empty space, and I was saying, Raymond, what's going on? Where are you going? And then there was nothing for a second, and then I heard beep, 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 and I didn't tell anyone this story for probably 3 years. And I got to a point where I sat down and I started writing about my experience, because that was part of my therapy, was to try and write about it. And when I sat down, I thought about it, and I said to my sister, I said, Michelle, I said, I had this really strange dream, because when I was in the coma, I could hear things going on later on after this event. I could hear things happening in the hospital around me, but I couldn't act on anything because I was comatose. So when they tell you to speak to people in a coma, they can hear you. So that was my experience anyway. So I said to my sister, I don't understand. I was dreaming. I said, it must have been drugs, but I saw Raymond. And then I told her the whole story I've just told you. And she said, oh, that would be when you died. I said, what do you mean when I died? And she said, oh, we didn't tell you, but you died on the table and you were gone for minutes. Wasn't long, it was minutes. But it might not have even been minutes. It was, everything to Michelle seemed blown out of proportion because, you know, she was right there for me, my sister. So she said it was only a minute or two or something. And they brought me back, but it was on the table. It was soon after they moved me from the country town where the accident occurred in central northern Victoria. They flew me back down to Melbourne, and it was soon after that on the table that it occurred. So that's basically what happened. Is short and sweet, and yeah, that's when I saw my brother, and I didn't realize for a couple of years because I didn't even know that I died.
Did you ever find out what actually happened in your accident? Did anybody ever tell you, like, you crashed into a wall or a car or what?
Yes. What occurred was when we approached this country town called Wangaratta on the northern Victoria. The highway in those days, it's multi-lane now. The highway in those days was almost a country road. It was one lane either way with a drop off to gravel. So apparently I was sitting behind a truck, just coasting behind the truck, and the truck, for some reason unknown to me at the time, I don't remember any of the accident, for some reason moved across from in front of me off the side of the road. And when he did that, a car traveling in the opposite direction towards me was towing a trailer full of all their household goods and children's play equipment in the trailer. And the driver had been going too fast or hit something. And the reason the truck got off the side of the road was because that trailer was swaying. At the very moment the truck got off the road, that trailer completely jackknifed across my lane and hit me head on. So it just smashed me and broke everything virtually on the right-hand side of my body, ripped my arm almost completely off. It was just hanging on by skin, literally. Yeah, that was the end of that. They never found my helmet. They said it was disintegrated in the accident, probably because I hit the road at considerable speed. When you think that the alleged speeds were both doing 80 kilometers or 50 mile an hour, both of us, I believe he was going faster personally, but it doesn't matter. Which means essentially 160 kilometers or 100 mile an hour impact. So that's what occurred. So the trauma to my head, because I obviously went straight down on the ground and my helmet smashed to pieces. I had severe bruising all down the right-hand side of my brain, which started to swell and immediately put me into a coma. And that's how the accident occurred, was someone lost control of a trailer. It jackknifed and at speed and hit me directly head on and just smashed the whole right-hand side of my body. Everything, legs, feet, arms, hands, everything was smashed.
Did your brother appear like he did at the time he passed, or did he appear at different age?
He looked like the last time I'd seen him. So at the time that he passed at 21, the image of him I saw was him at that age.
Do you think your brother was just trying to tell you it's not your time?
I believe so. And that's exactly what my sister said to me. She said, it obviously wasn't your time. And Raymond was there to let you know that, because I was begging him, because I hadn't seen him for 8 years or so. And I was begging him to take me with him and saying, come on, please, don't you dare leave me. And I wasn't saying it that politely either. I was getting really angry that he was not speaking, because he didn't say a word the whole time. Just looked at me and just like that, and gently raised his hand, and like I said, turned, and I'm like, I could never reach him, and he just sort of faded away. It was amazing. Yeah, so it was it's a bit disappointing, but the alternative was I wouldn't be here now, I guess.
Yeah. Has that experience faded over the years, or is it still as real today as the day that you first remembered it?
It's vivid. If I shut my eyes and think about it, I can see it exactly. I can no, it hasn't faded at all. That experience, meeting Raymond, was, seeing him that day, was, I can see it in my head now. So, I can see his face, I can see his hair. He had thick, dark, curly hair, a lot more than me. Yeah, so no, it's vivid in my mind. Yeah, I haven't forgotten it at all.
How do you think that experience changed you, if it did in any way?
It made me, in time, I mean, it was a long road home, because when I finally came out of the coma, and basically the right-hand side of my body was broken and the left-hand side of my body was paralyzed. And I'm like, I had to learn to write. I used to be right-handed. I'm now ambidextrous. I use all my hands. So I had to learn how to do everything left-handed, which is hard enough as it is. But after you've had a stroke, it's even harder. And it makes me chuckle when I see movies of people who've been in a coma for 6 years leap out of bed and start doing martial arts, because it's just so ridiculous. It's crazy, because 4 weeks, and when I had the accident, I was 94 kilograms and 11% body fat. I had a medical, so I was extremely fit. By the time after the coming out of the coma, I was 72 kilos. I'd lost close to 20 kilos in weight, because I was just lying there, and I was frail as anything. So yeah, you don't leap out of bed after you've been unconscious, even for a day, let alone a week or a month or a year. So yeah, but from that day forward, I thought, well, life is obviously too short. It could happen at any time. I mean, 10 years later, I had another accident which almost took me there again. I didn't have another NDE, but it was a serious accident where someone ran me off the road. But this time, injuries were more internal, with punctured lungs and failed kidneys and broken legs and things like that. So it was a bit different. It was slightly different, but it was equivalent amount of time. In both instances, when you include hospital and rehab, I spent close to 18 months in hospital. So I've spent 3 years of my life in hospitals and rehab, which sounds like an awfully long time, but I'm now 59, so it's only a little snippet. And the things that occurred during those times, the people you meet, and the things that you learn about yourself, they're amazing. And you learn to have a better appreciation of life, and know that you just got to enjoy life as much as you can, you know. So, which can be hard at times. I mean, you know, ongoing things are like chronic pain I have from the amputation. Well, not the amputation, but the loss of my arm type thing, because all the nerves are ripped out of my spine, so there's severe nerve damage on my spine. So, but after that, I married my girlfriend. We've had 3 kids, and I got 6 grandkids, and we're steaming along in a beautiful country town in Western Australia.
That's great. Did you notice that after you recovered, after your NDE, that you had some psychic-like abilities that you never had prior?
No, I don't think so. I don't believe. I haven't had any premonitions. I think I'm always right.
We'll ask your wife about that.
Well, no, that doesn't count. Because according to my wife, I'm always wrong. I'm always in trouble. So, yeah, no, I haven't had any. I haven't had any extra abilities or visions or anything like that. It was the one time sort of thing. I know of several people that have had that, and they continue to. Good friend John Scott, he's had that, and he continues to. Yeah, personally, no. So sorry, I'm a bit boring.
No, that's okay. You know, not everybody does.
No.
When you recall that experience, do you think it is hyper real? Like it's more real than even our life here on Earth? Almost like our life here on Earth is a dream compared to that?
Sometimes I think I'm in the Matrix. Yeah. It having that experience indicated to me that I'm not a religious person. I'm more a Star Wars. I believe there's a Force type thing, you know. I mean, but it told me that it's not the be all and end all here. And hopefully when the time is right, it's a better experience. Raymond didn't have wings, wasn't an angel, wasn't, you know, there was nothing religious, or there was nothing about that except me and Raymond. That was it. That was the pair of us there. And it was just him saying no. So obviously, like I said, it wasn't my time. But it does tell me that when the time does come, hopefully he'll be there waiting for me. So greeting me. So yeah.
Since the experience, do you fear death less or even not at all?
I don't look forward to death, but I don't particularly fear it. When I say I don't fear it, that doesn't mean to say I'll take unreasonable risks. I'll do whatever I can to stay alive, I think. But like I said, I'm of the opinion now that when that occurs, there could be so much better things going on afterwards. I mean, well, the first better thing is I get to see my brother again. So yeah, it's not like I have no fear of death whatsoever. I don't. The idea of it doesn't appeal to me, but the thought is always in the back of my mind that when that time does come, it's not going to be as bad as just being black, or, you know, just not, things aren't just going to stop. There is something more. I'm hoping that's what it is. I'm hoping it just wasn't drugs making me have dreams, but it certainly didn't seem like that.
Well, you've been in another coma, I thought, with your second accident or something. At least with your second accident, you had hallucinations from the medication. And if you did, wasn't that experience of hallucinations completely different from your NDE?
When I had the second accident, like I said, there was internal injuries, and I had an embolism, which if it travels to the wrong part of your body, it just kills you instantly. So it was traveling through my blood. So I was under constant supervision. But at this point in time, they were giving me morphine, and I was in a medically induced coma for a short while, I think it was only for a matter of days. And then when I started to recover from that, they gave me a pump or a button, which I pressed, and it would give me another shot of medication. But the kind of dreams that I had were nightmares. They were like Freddy Krueger things, you know. I mean, they were, well, one instance was I didn't know where I was. I didn't know why I was in the hospital, and my legs were up in traction. And I don't know what the dream was that time, but I thought I'd been tied up and was hanging upside down from a tree. I didn't know why I was like that. So I managed to undo the traction from one leg. I couldn't get it from the other leg. And as I swung my leg out, my broken leg out of the bed, luckily a nurse caught my leg and lifted me back in and put me back into bed. And then that kind of, I don't remember much after that. On another occasion, I imagined I was in the deep south or something, back in another time, another era. And I was on a plantation of some sort, and I'd been called to the big house. And I was sat at the table, and it's a horrible thing, it's a horrible recollection, but I had a cage over my head, and they said, okay, you have to answer these questions, and for every answer you get wrong, you'll be shot once. And then just as they asked the first question, I woke up. So those hallucinations, I said, please stop giving me this medication. And so they tried an epidural, which didn't work properly. It just felt like my spine was directly on the bed. And then they put me on pethidine, which sadly, due to a doctor error with my leg, over one weekend, I ended up addicted to pethidine for a short while, and then they got me off it again. They got me off it almost cold turkey the following week, and then released me from hospital. And I'm at home shaking. But yeah, that was another thing, because I was always very critical of people who are addicted to narcotics. And then when I found that you could also get addicted to narcotics from the mistake of someone else, which is what occurred, I had a different opinion in understanding that not everybody makes a choice to do that. And some people end up put in that position, which I was for a short while. To this day, when you go to hospital here now, they don't provide pethidine. They have different drugs because of people getting addicted. But when they did, if I ever went into a hospital, I could smell it. Just sitting in the waiting room, I could smell it. And my pain levels would go through the roof until they gave me some pethidine. It was a really strange feeling was to be in that position where I'd just go to hospital for something, and I could just feel it. It was just really strange. It was horrible. So at any time I could go straight back. I could have gone straight back to it. I haven't. They haven't given me pethidine in decades now. So, but yeah, it's not pleasant being addicted to anything, I don't believe.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Yeah. Are you open to that?
Oh yeah, I have no problems. I've actually talked to people. I've been asked to help people who suffer chronic pain and anxiety or depression, and I've had people say, "Oh, you've come a long way. Can you talk to my friend?" Somewhere, I can't remember where it is. It's a handwritten. I've got a handwritten paper I wrote, a couple of pages on pain and how to relieve pain and how to and the causes of pain. And I mean, I studied phantom pain for some time and have looked at a whole host of different theories as to what causes phantom pain. Right from the early days when there was a thing called Descartes' theory of pain, which is when you step on something and it hurts, it takes time for that message to reach your brain, and then you get it. And then there are other things called the neural matrix and mirror imagery and things like that. And they're all different things that you can look at to understanding your pain is a double-edged sword, because I understand what's causing my pain and why it's there. And that helps me to help try and manage it. But it also makes me realize, but it also in the back of my mind, I know that the injuries I've got are permanent, and the likelihood that I'm going to, minimize that pain is not fantastic, or get rid of that pain are not great. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. I don't live under the impression that I'm going to be rid of pain. Unfortunately, in the back of my mind, it feels like I'm always going to have pain. And that's part of my problem. If I could find a way to let go of that, and referring back to our mutual friend, John Scott, he tried to help me learn to let go of that, because there's a number of other things involved in my recollection. Like I know the name of the man who caused the accident, and it's stuck in my mind forever, and I can't let go of that. And I've had trouble forgiving the man and for what he did. And what occurred was recorded as an accident, an unavoidable accident. But knowing what I know about towing trailers and things tells me that short of someone knocking his trailer, he was doing something wrong. So it's been hard for me to let go of that. And I've been told by more than just John that by learning how to let go of that may help me reduce or remove my pain. So that's I think that's part of life, isn't it? Learning to forgive.
Yeah.
I can almost forget, but it's been very hard for me to forgive. So maybe one day I will achieve that, and I'll get to another state. I'll get to another level, maybe, but I haven't got there yet, unfortunately.
So if people do want to reach out to you, should they do it on Facebook?
Yeah, or they can send me a messenger request, and or Facebook. They can try and friend me, but if they do, just put a note to say what it's about, because sometimes you get friend requests from people, and sometimes they'll send a thing saying, "Hi, I'm so and so." Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Other people, you think, "Oh, do I know them?" No, I don't. So I've got a page full of people who I'm not really sure I even know,
right,
who have made requests. And some people, they reach out to friends of friends because they want more friends on Facebook. They want that big number of friends. So I don't accept everyone. But if someone sends me a messenger, well, see, if someone sends me a messenger request, that would probably be the easiest way to do it. I don't know if I'm hard to find. I don't know. If you can just search on someone, but because I'm sure there's more than one Colin Scott, that's a problem.
Right.
But if it's Perth or Gingin, if it's Western Australia, and my profile picture is me with my grandkids and my wife, so that's a nice picture to look at. So yeah, I'm happy for people to ask me questions if they want to. Yeah.
I didn't ask you before we started, but do you have anything that you want to share, like a book or a website or anything?
I did start many years ago writing my story, and I never finished it because it just seemed to be going on forever. And it's in a folder somewhere, handwritten. It's not even, it was prior to me using, when I after I lost my arm, I used to be an electrician. I couldn't do that anymore. So I became IT consultant in the end. But this was previous to that I wrote this stuff down. So I don't have anything to share as such, but talking to you and getting in touch with John again may inspire me to revisit that, pull that information out and write stuff down. I did write about my experience once and posted on John's page, I believe, but that was some time ago when he first learned that I did have an NDE. So so no, I don't have anything that I can share with anyone that discusses that. Again, now that we're talking, I've not done as much of my meditation and soul searching as I should in recent times. There's just been so much going on, which is part of life. But I have got a small small folder somewhere with my story and my paper that I wrote on pain management. So I may try and dig them out and do something to try and share that.
All right, Colin, before we finish up, do you think you can leave us with one last positive message?
A positive message. Well, I think the most positive thing that, like I said earlier, that I felt from my experience, my NDE, was I now firmly believe that this world is not the end. There is more. There's something beyond this world. I don't know what that is. But my brother told me I wasn't ready to experience it yet. Maybe I wasn't mature enough at the time. I don't know. But because of that, it's not something I talk about lots or preach or anything like that. But in the back of my mind, I do think to myself, there's something there. This is not the end of life. There is, I believe, something probably better after this. I'm hoping it's going to be better for me. I'm hoping he's telling me you're not ready to come down here with me. Or I'm hoping it was you're not ready to come up there with me or whatever, you know. So, yeah.
Colin, thank you for coming on and being our guest today. I really appreciate you, and I wish you a great rest of your day over there.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you very much again for inviting me. It was good fun. It was really good. And it made me think again, so it's been good.
Oh, it's great. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.